The pull-up, a deceptively difficult movement and widely considered to be the king of pulling exercises. It can build incredible back, arm and shoulder strength, improve your grip, and requires minimal equipment, only a doorway pull-up bar in my case. In an effort to increase my relative strength and improve my calisthenics conditioning, I decided to do 100 pull-ups a day for 7 days. In this video, I'm going to discuss my results, lessons, and takeaways from this experiment, and how I'm going to be implementing these in my training moving forwards. Alright, so how am I going to be conducting this experiment? Obviously, I'm going to do 100 pull-ups every day, but I'm going to include within this variations like chin-ups, neutral grip pull-ups, and high pull-ups. Pretty much any movement where I'm pulling my entire body weight upwards. This serves two purposes. Firstly, it reduces the risk of injury, since I'm not stressing the exact same muscles and joints in the exact same movement pattern so many times. Additionally, I'm hoping that by doing this, I'll gain pulling strength through a range of different positions, rather than just the standard pull-up position. During each set, I'm going to be pulling as high as possible and try to touch my chest to the bar, but I know that as I fatigue, this won't be possible to maintain. As for results, I'll test my max consecutive pull-ups, as well as the time that it takes me to complete 100 pull-ups at the start and end of the challenge. I'll also take physique photos of before and after. On that note, here are my before photos. Hey guys, it's me from the future here. Just a quick interruption because I realized that I forgot to mention that I plan to do these pull-ups every second day, not every day, just to give my body a chance to rest and recover between each workout. Without any further ado, let's get into the experiment. On the first day, weighing in at 65 kilos, my max consecutive pull-ups was 21, which I was pretty happy with. After that, it was time to see how quickly I could finish the rest of the 100 pull-ups. I've done this kind of workout before, when I either didn't have the time or the motivation to do a full workout. But this time it felt far harder than it had used to. I ended up doing all of my pull-ups in sets of 5 after the initial 21, and I couldn't even keep that up for long, having to resort to doing 2 back-to-back sets of 2 or 3 reps to make up the 5 pull-ups. I think that pushing to my max at the start of the workout made the rest of the workout significantly harder, but it was also obvious that my lack of bodyweight training over the past 6 months had eroded my basic calisthenic strength. I was so exhausted that the last rep took me nearly a full minute to get, and in the end I took 24 minutes and 30 seconds to finish the workout, which I wasn't very happy with. The upside to this was that I had a chance to really smash my time at the end of this week if the experiment went well, and it did. After the workout I was tired but not too sore and could go about the rest of my day as usual. However, when I woke up the next day and throughout the whole day as well, my back was super sore, so sore that I could feel it if anything so much as brushed it. My mobility and flexibility also felt severely limited, with me barely being able to touch the floor when I can usually easily rest my palms flat on the floor. This was interesting to me since I've been doing a lot of weighted pull-ups recently with no issues of soreness at all, so it shows that doing this low weight, high rep style of training was definitely giving my body a different stimulus to usual. On day 2, I was still extremely sore from day 1, even with the rest day in between. Instead of doing the pull-ups in one go, I decided to spread them throughout the day, and so I started off with testing my max in the morning after waking up. I managed to get 18 consecutive pull-ups, which was less than my max on day 1, but it also made sense given how sore I was feeling. After lunch, I did another 12, and the soreness was only increasing as the day went by. Even just holding a passive hang, I could really feel the stretch in my lats, and I didn't feel explosive at all, struggling to get my chin over the bar in almost every rep. Later that afternoon, I did another 30 pull-ups, then 20 after having some tea, and finally another 20 at night to finish up the day. The next day, I was still very sore, probably just because I hadn't given my muscles a chance to recover before blasting them with another workout, and the day after I had to skip my pull-ups due to being out for the entire day. Because of this, I ended up getting 3 days of rest between my second and third day of pull-ups. With the 3 days of rest, I wasn't feeling sore at all on the third day, and I managed to knock out 20 pull-ups in the morning. I followed this up with another 20 pull-ups before lunch, followed by 20 chin-ups after lunch. The pull-ups were feeling slightly easier at this point, but it wasn't a huge difference from before. After doing some cardio, I did 20 close grip pull-ups and then a drop set of L-sit chin-ups to L-sit pull-ups to neutral grip pull-ups to finish off the day. The next day, I didn't feel sore at all, and I knew that from this point, the results would really start to show, since my body was finally adapting to the sheer volume of pull-ups that it was being exposed to. Day 4 was the turning point in this experiment where things really started to take off. It started off with 20 pull-ups in the morning again, but after lunch I managed to hit 23 consecutive pull-ups, which was a new personal record. Interestingly, it felt so much easier to grind out the reps on this day, and I could relatively easily go for 15 reps in a row without pausing, whereas I would usually have to stop at around the 12th rep to take a short break. I did another set of 20 pull-ups before work and then 30 after to finish off the day feeling really good. At this point, my body had definitely adapted to the workouts, and throughout the day, I practiced a bunch of different variations, mostly just playing around with different grips, but also throwing in some harder variations like L-sit or side-to-side pull-ups. On this day, I also managed to hit 15 consecutive L-sit pull-ups, which I was really happy with, since usually my max is around 12. On day 6, I wasn't expecting too much because I'd gone bouldering the previous day for 3 hours, but I still managed to knock out 21 reps in the morning, which I was really happy with. I was out for the whole day, so I had to finish up my reps in the evening and night when I got back. This was pretty interesting to me, since on all of the previous days, I'd had at least an hour or a couple of hours of rest in between each set since I did it throughout the day. But this time, between each set, I only had about 5 to 15 minutes. I know that 5 to 15 minutes of rest is still a long time, but it's significantly less than a few hours, and I thought that this might have an impact on my muscular endurance. Somehow, at this stage, the first 15 reps of each set didn't even feel that tiring, and I could go on for 15 without pausing as I could on day 5, but it felt even easier than it did on day 5. Anyway, that was it for day 6, and with that came the final day of the challenge. Unfortunately, I had to do the 7th day of pull-ups immediately following day 6, as I was leaving the next day and wanted to keep the setup of the experiment consistent. While I may have performed slightly better had I had an extra rest day in between, I can't say for certain, and either way I was still really happy with the results. Here's what happened. Just like on day 1, I did all of my pull-ups in one workout this time and tested my max pull-ups as my first set. To my surprise, I managed to hit 25 consecutive reps, which is 4 more than I'd ever done before starting this experiment. I was super happy with this result, but also slightly worried at this point that I would end up like on day 1, unable to do more than a few reps each set to finish the rest of the 100. I didn't need to worry, as I still did sets of 5 to keep it consistent, but could feel that they were significantly easier than on day 1, and I also recovered much faster, meaning that I needed less rest time in between each set. In the end, I finished in 14 minutes flat, which I was insanely happy with. That's an improvement of over 10 minutes from day 1. Or it would have been, but after reviewing the footage, I realised that I'd only actually completed 90 pull-ups, not 100. Even so, continuing at the rate that I'd been going of 5 pull-ups every minute, that means that I would have completed the 100 pull-ups in 16 minutes, which is still an 8.5 minute improvement from day 1. Alright, time for the results and conclusions from this experiment. My maximum pull-ups, as you know, went from 21 to 25 pull-ups over 7 days, and at the end, I felt much more comfortable controlling my own body weight. I don't really know how to describe this, but for any of you who do calisthenics, you'll know what I'm talking about. Comparing the before and after photos, my back got significantly more defined and also tapered in more at the waist, although the second point may have been due in part to the extra cardio that I'd been doing in the few days prior to this. My shoulders and arms also look bigger and more defined, although that may partially be caused by the slightly different angle that the photos were taken from. Either way, there was definitely significant growth in the back, shoulders and arms over the course of this experiment. Now, what did I learn from this, and how am I going to implement it into my future training? This experiment reminded me that it's important to keep up with the basics and not to get so caught up in low rep strength training that we neglect these basic movements. In the future, I'm going to include high rep pull-ups in my workouts at least once weekly, even if it's only one set. While thinking about how to include this in a workout when training for a strength-based pulling skill, such as the one-arm pull-up, I realised that I could throw in a set on a day where I'm not training back, such as leg day, since I don't accumulate any significant fatigue from these high rep sets. I'm hoping that doing this will allow me to maintain the gains that I got during this experiment, and I suspect that it will help me progress even faster in my other pulling-based goals, but for that we'll have to wait and see. That's it for this video. Thanks for sticking around and watching it the whole way. If you took anything away from this video, whether information or entertainment, hitting like would be a free and easy way to support me. I have a bunch more experiments which I've already conducted, and I'm currently in the process of producing videos for, so if you don't want to miss those, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.